we can't trust these people. Like, if you're the United States, you cannot trust the political instincts of Europe and the United Kingdom.
Why they want Greenland. So let's talk now to political commentator, PR expert, friend of the show, Stephen Cant, joins me now. Stephen, right, do you agree with me that the logic behind taking, controlling, see the language is difficult even around that Greenland, is there, but somehow it's a very difficult message to communicate?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Trump administration is very much divided within itself on what their message is. You know, your previous guest from the administration was talking about sort of a realist foreign policy where, you know, land is power, and that is true. The Arctic Circle is important. It has proximity to Russia. China was talking in 2018 about becoming an Arctic power themselves, and there's a sense that Greenland is strategically important. And that's one concern, but even the administration is not being clear just on that. Trump is sort of making it about power and glory, and, you know, like it's going to be sort of a hallmark of his legacy. But Christopher Wright at the Energy Department in the United States is talking about the key mineral reserves in Greenland, which are going to be hugely important for wind power, for battery production, for, you know, microchip development, that we would actually then control our own mining and supply chains for the AI boom. But that's his message. The administration has a bunch of different things that they could be saying, and they're not really being clear, so it boils down to Trump's tweets, which is just planting a flag on land like Alaska, I guess. But, you know, the guy you were debating with in London just a minute ago, you know, he was talking about, you know, Alaska being McKinley's legacy. Well, Alaska is really strategically important, so that aged quite well. If that was a vanity project for a former U.S. president, it's our buttress against against Russia. So sometimes these things work out for the best.
Do you think the younger generation here in America would look at Trump's ambition with Greenland and maybe think that that is something that the country has a right to do, is to just stick a flag?
So yes, I do. There was a poll that was out in Axios just today talking about young voters underneath the age of 35 who vote Republican or voted for Trump in the last election. And there's some good and bad here, right? But there's high levels of support, over 45%, for very illiberal approaches to dealing with the Supreme Court. Ignoring Supreme Court verdicts, breaking up checks and balances in the United States, ignoring the rules-based order of the international community. Basically, might makes right. So there is support for that within the young conservative bloc. And I suppose I would consider myself to be one of those people where I go, the real world is like this. And we have sort of been living in an illusion since World War II, where everybody is going to do everything by back-channeling, being polite the way Keir Starmer would like it. But things are changing very, very fast, and the United States needs to change with it. A good example of that, Mark Carney of Canada said just today that the rules-based order of the world has been an illusion, a useful lie. Those are his words. And Donald Trump has basically put them in a position where they're revealing that this was always the case, that the rules-based order was always just sort of a means to an end, but our allies or our enemies are rising against us, Russia and China. And Emmanuel Macron is talking about letting China into Europe to double, triple its investments. What kind of friends are these?
Yeah, well, and we have the mega embassy in London that's just been given permission with over 200 rooms underground in the centre of London.
Yeah, why? Why would you do this if you actually have a sense of who your friends and enemies are? Europe talks this big game about Russia and their threat to NATO on their eastern borders. And we know that Russia is aligned with China in a very close way, and they have a shared vision of the world. And yet, Europe lets China inside its borders in these sort of bizarre and grandiose ways, suggesting, I think, again, we can't trust these people. Like, if you're the United States, you cannot trust the political instincts of Europe and the United Kingdom. They are weak instincts. They are not thinking about power politics in the way that the 21st century is going to play out. They think it is still, I don't know, like 1990 or something. This is not going to go that way. So I do think that Donald Trump is forcing the world into a position here where we're being realistic about power and security. And it strikes me as odd that Europe is so alarmed that the United States would have a larger presence just to their west on the island of Greenland. And they have nothing to say about how they need the United States more on the eastern border against a hostile and aggressive Russia. They want our money, they want our guns and our rockets, but they don't want us on Greenland mining minerals. Why? Please tell us why we can't have that land for everything that we do for you. And I do think that is a position that most young Americans and young conservatives hold, which is that the trade-off here has gotten to be imbalanced.
Yeah. Stephen, fascinating. Thank you.
Thanks,
Come
Beth.
back and be on the panel.